let's talk about some other standouts in this game, because I think there's some things that we can talk about, good or bad, whichever direction you want to go. I'll say, let me just start out with, I'll give one bad, and then I'll give one good, and then I'll let you do the same.
Let's
One
go
bad
for it.
for me is the trenches, especially on the defensive line. Like I said, I want to see the all 22 before I figure out what happened early in that game. If it was on the offensive line, Trey, receivers, what have you. But the defensive line certainly got whooped for a big portion of this game. They had a great fourth down stand, but outside of that, they really were not winning a lot of these matchups across the board. That was concerning to see, because the way that I see it is, and I think the way that a lot of people see it for the 49ers, is that they have a ton of depth, there's a ton of talent, and really they could be the best defensive line in football. But a lot of that comes down to what we think is depth pieces, especially in the interior of the defensive line. So it's a little disheartening to see them not really win those battles. The players, we all know them across that defensive line. I had hoped that they would have showed a little bit better today. They did not have a good showing. As far as somebody that played well, I have to give a shout out to Ambry Thomas. I have to, because the 5 days that I was there at training camp, Rohan, and we talked about it every time. Every time he was on the field, it's like, okay, they're going to throw his direction. Here comes a completion. And almost every time, that was exactly what happened. Today, he played very well. And for a player that may be fighting for his 49er life right now, to see him play well, how can you not root for that? Like, that is a really good thing. And the 49ers secondary certainly can use some depth as well. So the fact that he played well today, we'll see if he ends up making the team. Let's hope that he continues to do that. But I thought it was very encouraging. And just like the human element, very, very happy for him, because I know that his back is certainly against the wall, potentially as a 49er here. So what are a couple takeaways, good and bad, for you today?
Yeah, I mean, I love the two that you pointed out. Trenches, both offensive line and defensive line, were on my stock down. Out of halftime, it's going to be on my stock down at the end of the day today. Offensive line, not great. Overall, not great. You don't want 9 pressures on 15 dropbacks with Trey Lance, and you don't want 4 sacks on 15 dropbacks, right? It's not a good sign overall. And then defensive line, the run game was alarming. I mean, seeing Kevin Givens and Javon Kinlaw get pushed in the middle and, allowing runs to go to the second level consistently, it's alarming. I'll go a different route, and I don't know if everyone will agree with me. Stock down, one guy I had non-quarterbacks wise was Isaiah Oliver. He was the lone starter to play for the 49ers today. Every other player on the team, I believe, that played today was a backup. Isaiah Oliver was the lone starter, and so it's not great to see him give up 2 catches in the time that he played, including a touchdown catch. Again, very small sample size, but it's intriguing that he played, probably due to the lack of depth at cornerback. That is why he played, but still, stock down for him. Gave up 2 catches, including a touchdown pass in the red zone today. Thought, he was one of my guys on the downtrend. On the uptrend, I have a couple of options, but I'm going to give love to these 2 specific players, 2 skill position players. First one, Tyron Davis-Price. I thought he had a solid day. On a day where the offense was down, I thought he ran the ball pretty darn well. Not exactly sure how many yards he ended with on the day, but I thought he had a pretty solid day. And even if you look at the yards per attempt or whatever the numbers end up being, I thought it was a solid day in terms of his vision, in terms of the things that we saw in camp continue to carry over. And the second one had a bad play at the end, but Ronnie Bell. I liked what I saw from Ronnie Bell, apart from the really blatant drop that ended in an interception. He had some nice catches downfield. He looked the part to play on the inside and on the outside. Had a catch on a go route on the outside. Could also play in the slot as well. And he, it's not that I was very impressed with him as a returner, but he showed some grit in there, especially on the punt returning side. And especially ball security wise, that's something you want to see. I think Deshaun Jacobson's the better returner, but Ronnie Bell is continuing to trend up, had him making the 53 after training camp, and that stance still stays after day 1 of preseason.
Yeah, Ronnie Bell. Now, he had the one drop that went through his hands and ended up being an interception near pick 6. Definitely not on Allen, but outside of that, man, there was a play, and it's funny because I remember when he got drafted, I tweeted almost the exact same thing. I'm like, he's a 49er football player. You see it in his film. He blocks. He's a willing blocker. He's got tough hands. He fights through contact when he catches the ball. And then you saw that all on display again today. So yes, shout out to Ronnie Bell as well. Who was your, did you have any bad? Sorry, I didn't catch the bad portion of
Yeah,
it.
my bad was Isaiah Oliver today.
Oh, Isaiah, that's right. I did hear you say Oliver. I was hoping that maybe you would say, do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
Who are you going to go for?
Cam Latu?
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's an obvious one. Yeah, I mean, he's been on the down for a while. Cam Latu. He's not. He didn't look great in training camp. I'm not gonna lie. Drop issues continued, and they were pretty high at the joint practices. He was a drop guy at college too, and maybe he's a solid blocker, and that's truly going to be seen when tackling and live tackling and all comes on in the next few preseason games. But you have drop issues, and you have a fumble issue. Not a great start for him. On his lone touch of the day, he fumbled the football. Yikes for third rounders today for San Francisco.
Well, yeah, and he struggled to even bring that ball in. It wasn't like it was a rocket pass or anything difficult. Like he struggled to bring it in initially, and then he fumbled it. It's like, man, I just, and hearing the way that he kind of talked after one of the practices this last week, where he's like, I got to lose some weight and I got to get you. It's like, man, the game is moving a little bit too quickly for him, which is, for rookies, you can understand it. But when two of the quote unquote bad from today's game were the two of the first three picks that you had in this year's draft, that's a little bit rough for sure. A little bit rough. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but not a good start. Definitely not a good start for some of those guys.